Welcome to Bespoke Diaries. Today's article is on A Journey of Endurance, Faith, and Healing by Dr. Tracey George, founder, CEO, author, keynote speaker, the Core Outreach Network, the Core Training Institute, T.G.A.P.Systems LLC, USA. It was the summer of 1977, school was finally out. Here she was, this tall and skinny kid from Florida, ready to seize the opportunity to travel and play with her friends. All the stuff kids loved to do, that was her. Well, this go round, her parents decided we would head to South Carolina to visit the family. She said goodbye to her buddies and prepared for the big road trip. Everything was lovely at first. We arrived in South Carolina at her grandparents' home with joy and excitement. We joked, even shared stories. Then Mom and Dad left her brother and her there, about 1 month and a half, to spend some time. Everything seemed great for a while. She stayed out of folks' way and looked for things to do to keep from getting into any trouble. Nevertheless, things kept happening. She knew something was wrong when her grandfather tried to do what he could to protect her from all of that. However, it was no use. She came to be the topic of the day. She began to notice that regardless of what she tried to do, she didn't fit in. The more she tried, the worse things got. For example, one family member locked her out of the house while chasing her around the yard with a switch stick. He knew he was afraid of the big dog in the backyard, but he didn't care, he just kept going. Why? She asked herself the same question. Why is he doing this to her? She had never experienced such mistreatment. Oh, and for the record, he did all this because she didn't want to go outside to play. She wanted to sit on the couch and read books. Her parents did not raise her this way. No, she was taught to respect others. Now she is being exposed to behaviors that cause her to question everything. Often, she would go to the bathroom and lock the door so that she could talk to herself. She didn't bother anybody. She could go on and on. From being locked in the dark while they laughed to being spanked for reading books. Something happened every single day until it broke her. Let me say this. Frequently, many do not realize the trauma someone can face as a child when dealing with physical or verbal abuse. Before this trip, she was an honor student. She enjoyed reading books, and she loved school and playing. For example, she spent countless hours playing with her puzzles. She would dig through the pile of pieces to find the correct part. Sometimes, she would find herself puzzled for a moment because nothing fit, only to discover that some pieces were missing. If the parts are missing, is it possible to finish the picture? Many of her puzzles ended up in the trash due to missing pieces, torn pieces, broken pieces, and pieces that no longer fit because they had frayed ends. She was 8 years old when it all began. However, reading was her absolute favorite thing to do. There were days when the relatives wanted us to go outside and play, but she would beg to stay inside to read. It didn't matter, and she would be forced to go out and then receive beatings if she didn't play. Soon, she began to withdraw. She had taken enough emotionally and physically. When her parents finally returned to pick us up, she was a different kid, the time her puzzle pieces went missing. By the age of 11, we moved to the same city and state where all the abuse occurred. Her parents joined the church the relatives attended. It was during that same year that she became more involved in our church and enjoyed the same experiences she had seen. Later, she became more involved. She began to speak and lead the younger kids while wounded. She was still moving along with the previous issues hidden, neatly tucked, in the corridors of her mind. For the next 10 years, she spoke wherever she could. She spoke at seminars to introduce songs for the choir and during services. With all of this going on, she quietly battled with depression. Though she was acquainted with many, she only had a few friends. She didn't want anyone getting too close. It was during those years that she became a recluse and stopped talking. She would sit in her room for hours and read. That became her escape. Eventually, she remembered what had happened to her all those years ago. She had attempted to suppress it all. Once it came back to mind, she hated those relatives for what happened. One day her brother called her mom and told her that she needed to talk to her about the summer of '77. That would be the first time she spoke about it. Her mother tried to encourage her. Once again, she thought the problem was gone. Now in her 20s, she faced hatred for those who hurt her. She remained depressed. Fast forward. She was in college, and the tension continued to increase. She couldn't take it anymore. Taking a full load in college, in the Army Reserves, she was wearing her mask while pretending everything was all right. Thoughts of suicide invaded her mind all the time. One day she went to her psychology professor and asked her in a roundabout way if she knew what was wrong with her friend. She told her that my friend was possibly borderline manic depressive and school was possibly too much for them. She thanked her and kept the information to herself. She continued to do everything she could to disguise the problem. One day her mother took her to school and told her she needed to deal with depression. Here she was a grown woman, but those puzzle pieces reflected her life's condition at that time. From the age of 8, she had a problem. She was physically abused and bullied by some of her mother's family members, which negatively impacted her life. It wouldn't be until years later that her parents found out. It took years to overcome. She went from being the happy kid in the family to being withdrawn and insecure. Life changed as she knew it. She was open like a sore and depressed. She continued to carry the weight of her past issues for far too long. Time had passed, and she had to deal with the stuff before it took her completely out. She knew she had to get a grip. She had been here before. This time she knew what she needed to do. She pulled out the heavy weapons and told depression goodbye. For the first time since being a kid, she felt free from hopelessness. No more drama and no more moments of being withdrawn. Now she felt free to share her story with whoever would listen. What she gained from all of this was that regardless of the pressures of life she could make it. So let her say this to you. In your life, there will be storms that seem to rearrange your life as you know it to be. Yet we must get the healing we need and keep moving forward. Yes, she knows it feels as if we will collapse under the weight and the issues don't bring smiles or leaps into the air. Nevertheless, we are challenged to stand in the midst of it all. Everything that happened through the years hurt badly. She wanted to crawl under a rock and wait for everything to blow over. She means, come on. She had been through enough, don't you think? Yes. Let her encourage you. Whatever you've been through will take time to recover, so don't attempt to rush the process. Be determined like her, to stand up for yourself during each phase. Don't sit idly by while becoming stuck. Instead, lift your head and acknowledge that you can and will get back up. No, you don't have to sit down in shame due to challenges. Life is filled with valleys, mountains, and storms. Finally, she realized that she truly was not alone. This opened the door to her discovery and awareness. She had to change her focus. She had to learn how to stand up for herself and fight for the win. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Do leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For similar type of article, please reach us at contact@thebespokediaries.com, or you can visit our website www.thebespokediaries.com.